Hey everyone, and welcome back to Civics Review. Today we're going to be going over the dual court system we have in America, and we're going to be comparing the federal and the Florida court system. Alright, all you Floridians, let's get to it! The United States of America has a dual court system, which is not as confusing as it sounds. But before we can begin to compare and contrast the federal and state court systems, we need to identify what the court actually does. The courts really have three primary responsibilities. One is to settle people's beef in civil disagreements. This happens all the time. People disagree about all kinds of things, and they need a court of law to tell them who wins and who loses. Two, they're going to determine the innocence or guilt of those accused of a crime. And maybe the one most important to what we study in civics is three, interpreting the Constitution. So now that we know what the courts do, we can look more closely at the dual court system. The United States has two court systems, the federal and the state. Why do we have a federal and state system? I mean, why not have one court system? What's the point? Well, when our Constitution was written, we had 13 colonies that had very different government and court systems than all of the others. Each state had developed their own court system and laws for generations. Our founding fathers thought it best to let each state continue doing its thing rather than getting rid of their state court systems, since it had worked really well and everyone really liked it, and instead they added a separate court system to handle the big picture kind of stuff, the federal government kind of stuff, and they let the other states handle the small potatoes issues. And that's the dual court system. Now let's imagine you and your neighbor get into some kind of disagreement with one another. Maybe you let them borrow your entire Pokemon card collection, and then when you went to go ask for it back, they refused to return it to you. If you wanted to sue them in the court system, which court system would actually have jurisdiction? Oh wait, you do know what this word means, right? Jurisdiction is the authority to make legal decisions and judgments. So whichever court has jurisdiction has the authority to judge your Pokemon conundrum. And this is a big deal issue, right? I mean, this is theft. You had like 2 Charizard foils and 3. You had 3, right? So who's gonna rule on my case? That's gotta be federal, right? Well, I know it's hard to believe that a Pokemon collection issue isn't big picture stuff, but the federal government does not care about you and your neighbor's disagreement. This is small potato stuff. So, the state court system has jurisdiction to judge your case. We can also call that original jurisdiction, meaning they have the authority to first rule on a case, and you're going to begin your case at the trial court. This is where you're going to present your evidence, there's going to be a judge and a jury, and then your attorney or your lawyer is going to stand up and shout, "Objection!" So, let's get a closer look at the Florida court system. I'm sorry to do this twice in one video, but this might shock you again. You're not going to start at the top of the court system. Your case is going to start at the bottom. Remember, the trial courts have original jurisdiction, or the original authority to hear your case first, and in Florida, we have 2 trial courts. We call them county and circuit court. This is a little bit different than the federal court and also a little bit different than other states. Not every state is going to have this, so just make sure you keep that tucked away. Now, the Florida Supreme Court can also be considered a trial court, but this is somewhat rare. Cases are very rarely going to start here, and they have to be of extreme importance or something only the Supreme Court of Florida can handle. Now, starting at the bottom of the pyramid, we have county courts. This is going to handle a lot of small potato stuff. Things like traffic violations, parking tickets, a small claim for under $8,000, a civil case under $30,000. This is where you're having a disagreement with somebody, maybe over a contract or an accident that led to personal injury. Lastly, county courts handle misdemeanors, and these are lesser crimes resulting in less than 1 year of jail. Small things like petty theft, domestic assaults, or driving under the influence. Moving up to the next level of the pyramid, we see circuit courts. Alright, now these are above county courts and they're going to handle slightly different things. Circuit courts handle all civil cases over $30,000, some disagreement that's worth a lot of money in damages. If you're under 18 years old, you're not yet considered to be an adult in the eyes of the law, and if you are arrested or accused of a crime, then your juvenile case will go to circuit court. Now, family law includes things like divorce and dividing up the property and who gets custody of the kids, but it can also include things like adoption. Finally, felonies can also be done here at this level of court. Felonies are major major crimes, guys. Murder, arson, grand theft auto, these are the big ones, and your case is going to happen at this level. Now, there's one thing the circuit courts can do that the county courts cannot, and that is hear appeals from the lower county courts. So let's say our Pokemon court case starts in the county courts. They have original jurisdiction, and our trial begins there because our cards are worth less than $30,000. If we feel like there's been a mistake, we can appeal to a higher court, and the circuit court would be one of those appellate courts. I know they're a trial court, but they can also hear appeals, and appeals are basically reviews from lower court cases. And what are we reviewing? We're looking for mistakes, some kind of error that was made in the lower courts. Maybe a judge's decision wasn't good, or they threw out some evidence that they should not have done. And because I know there's a few students saying, whoa, pump the brakes, man, I do not know the difference between a trial court and an appeals court, this one's for you. A trial court, remember, is where we present our evidence to a judge, to a jury, and our attorney stands up and shouts, "Objection!" We're trying to prove our innocence here, or we're trying to prove we don't have to pay damages. In an appeals court, there is no evidence. We're not going to present that. We're not going to have a lawyer there to argue our side. We're not going to have a jury to listen to our case and make a decision. There's only going to be a judge. In fact, there's going to be multiple judges. We call this a bench trial. And we can have anywhere from 3 to 5 to 7 to 9 judges, all there to review our case for mistakes. Was there an error made in the judge's decision? Did the judge give us too harsh of a sentence? Was some kind of evidence excused or not allowed in a courtroom? That kind of stuff. So the appeals process in the Florida court system looks like we're kind of climbing a ladder or rising up in the pyramid to get to the top of the Supreme Court. Remember, we start at the trial courts at the bottom. The county court handles all the small stuff for a little bit of money. They're only a trial court. The circuit courts are a trial court for the bigger things, and it also can appeal or review the decision of the lower county courts. Now, you can move up to the District Court of Appeals and have them review the decision of the lower trial courts from the circuit courts. And finally, of course, if you don't like that or you still think there's a mistake, you can appeal to the Supreme Court. We gotta catch them all. Also notice the Florida Supreme Court is an appellate court, all right? They mostly hear appeals decisions where they're going to review someone else's cases. Very rarely do they start a trial case in the Florida Supreme Court. They're mostly listening to appeals of other cases to review them. All right, I've appealed, and made my way to the Florida Supreme Court. What are they all about? Well, the Florida Supreme Court has discretionary jurisdiction. That means they can kind of pick and choose which cases they want to hear, and they're very picky. They're not going to choose everybody's case to listen to. Your Pokemon card case will probably not be heard by the Florida Supreme Court because they might say, look, we trust the District Court of Appeals decision. They got it. The cases they're really looking for are the ones that have the most importance or weight to them, or the ones that only they can handle. There's a few things that only the Florida Supreme Court can handle, and that's the very big picture stuff in the state of Florida. Whew, that seemed like a lot. We still have more to do. Remember, this is a dual court system, which means the state court system is over. Now we're going to go over the federal court system. But don't worry, now that we know the basics, this ought to be pretty simple. The federal court handles big picture stuff that the state court system cannot handle. So federal jurisdiction means they have the authority to hear cases on federal laws and constitutional rights. So if you're trying to print money at home, that's counterfeiting, that's a federal crime. And they're going to be the ones to handle that. No state court can handle those kinds of laws and constitutional rights like your right to free speech. That's all handled in the federal court system. We also have citizens of different states. When they get into disagreements with one another, sometimes the federal court system has to mediate in between them. And also, states can sue one another. When Florida wants to sue Georgia or Georgia wants to sue Florida, who do they go to? They can't go to the state court systems because the Georgia state court system would favor Georgia and the Florida state court system would favor Florida, so they go to the federal court system for them to figure out who's right and who's wrong. And this has happened many times. Florida and Georgia have actually argued over their border. Even recently in 2021, there was a decision where Georgia and Florida were suing one another over the usage of their water and their rivers. So your case is going to start in the trial courts in the federal court system, and that's the U.S. District Courts. That's where you can present your evidence. You're going to have a judge and a jury, and you're going to try and have an attorney shout out, "Objection!" If you think something went wrong in your trial court and you want a court of appeals to review your case for mistakes, you can go to the U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals. And if you think something went wrong in the U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals, or you didn't like their decision, you can appeal to the Supreme Court. And again, they have discretionary jurisdiction, which means they're very, very, very picky on what cases they want to hear, just like the state Supreme Court. And the cases they are looking for are ones to deal with constitutional rights, and they're going to interpret, do you have a right or do you not have a right? And that's going to have a tremendous impact on the rest of us American citizens. Okay, that's it for now. Thanks so much for sticking to the end of my video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. We'll make more videos soon.